Niarbol means?
Yes, Niarbol means tail, and so it's referring to that one bit of land going out into the sea, and traditionally that shoreline was called the Dalby shore.
Oh, you see, he does know an awful lot, and it is undoubtedly a beautiful part of the world. Jo Overty is with us this afternoon, and Jo, just remind people what your role is.
I'm the Project Officer for UNESCO Biosphere Isle of Man.
And just how special is it around here then?
Well, Niarbol is, well known for a tourist hotspot. Most people on the Isle of Man find their way down here, but perhaps fewer people know that it is actually one of the island's 10 marine nature reserves, newly designated last year. Just under 5 kilometres, a very small marine nature reserve, but it has lots of very special species, including one incredibly special species, the oldest animal in the world.
Which is a mongoose? Is it a mongoose?
It's not a mongoose, unfortunately. It is the Iceland clam, not from a well-known supermarket of the same name, but actually probably originally from the country of Iceland, I would imagine, and it is known to live up to 507 years old.
And there's also something quite interesting about the geology of this area as well.
Yeah, Cheryl's the expert on that, but I believe that at one stage it was taken to have broken off from America, and so that you're technically standing in 2 continents at the same time if you're standing on just down the road from here, so who needs to go on holiday?
See, I didn't know about that, so we will talk to Cheryl about that after the show. But another reason that you're here is something we've briefly touched on the programme previously, is this poetry map. Now, it seems to me like Dalby and Niarbol would be a brilliant place to perhaps feel inspired to write poetry.
Very difficult to make Niarbol rhyme, surely.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Jo, just remind us what this poetry competition is.
So the poetry map is a collaboration between us, Culture Van and the Manx Bard. We are inviting people to visit their favourite places, to be inspired to write a poem about it, or to go and explore somewhere new and write a poem about it.
And somebody quite famous has written a poem about this area.
Indeed. A former resident of the Isle of Man is a well-known lady called Pam Ayres, who many people remember winning a talent competition in the 1970s called Opportunity Knocks, which is was as famous then as the X Factor is famous now. And she lived in the Isle of Man in the late 70s and 80s. She really loved living here. She's moved away now. But she had written a poem about Niarbol, which she has allowed us to include on the poetry map.
So you've been actually liaising with Pam Ayres?
Yeah, I just thought I'm going to email her and see if she has any fond memories of the Isle of Man or a poem, and she offered it back, and she's really happy for it to be published on the map. She's told us that she was actually lovelorn when she wrote this poem. She used to come courting down to Niarbol, and then the relationship broke up very, very sadly, and so she wrote this very melancholic poem about Niarbol and how it made her feel sad every time she came back.
Oh, it is beautiful, though, I have to say, and it is. You can read it now, can't you, if you go to the poetry map?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to entries to the poetry competition via the Biosphere website, so it's Biosphere Isle of Man /poetry map, the actual poems themselves are hosted on Culture Vanin website, which I think has a very similar URL, culturevanin /poetry_map. And we're building up already. We only launched a couple of weeks ago a really nice collection of maps from all around the island, and 3 so far about Niarbol, so it obviously does inspire people.
I think it really does. And I don't like putting people on the spot, as you know, Christy, but James Franklin just happens to have this poem in his hand. Would you mind reading it for us?
Yep, I can. Well, I'll do the first verse. Maybe it's relatively long. There's a crow cocking in the background. Whatever. I'll ignore that. Niarbol Bay, where they gather the seaweed to lay on the land, and oyster catchers they run on the sand. All I could feel was the touch of your hand on Niarbol Bay.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you know what, James, though, I know that's a very heartfelt poem, obviously from a very personal place, but we've spoken to you quite recently about the fact that poetry has been a brilliant way of getting the message out about the Isle of Man, culturally, landscape-wise, in every sort of way, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very much something which is open to everyone to write a poem or to read a poem and to enjoy it. It's very much a direct reaction to this place which means so much to all of us.
And that's really, I think, the key that we've found, Christy, with this Village Hall series in general, is that everywhere that we've visited so far means so much to the people who are connected to it, either historically or on a day-to-day basis. And I've been here myself for the Mums and Tots group. Have to say, Cheryl, what a great place to be on a cold winter's day when that fire's going.
Mums and Tots, yes. It's one of those things that when we started, everybody said to me, but Cheryl, we only have 1 tot in the village. And we get about 45 people to it.
The food is always very good, actually. It's a lovely bring and share environment, and it's just lovely. And I think you said something earlier about when people move into the village, and the idea of having somewhere here where they can go, regardless of what it is they're into, is so important.
It's a meeting point, and I said earlier on that we started with fundraising. What we were aware of is that actually people needed to just gather, and so we've started a number of things. Mums and Tots was one of them, the soup stops another, the film afternoons and the Sunday papers were all points where we literally said no agenda. These are just meeting points. Initially for the village, and then we've got sort of like a wider group of people who come who like the ad hoc way that things are run in Dalby, I think. But so we've got quite a large group now, email group of people we contact for events, and they turn up for the meeting points as well. So it's like an extended community, which is beautiful.
So you mentioned the Sunday papers. Do people literally just come here to read them?
No. Yes, we're so studious, and then we debate. Not. What happens is it was a carbon saving initiative which we started about 7-8 years ago. Gilly is our coordinator, and Kevin are the coordinators for that. The idea is to stop people from having to go through to Peel individually to buy their papers. 2 people from the village are allocated the role each week, and they'll go and collect their papers, and their partner will light the fire and put the coffee on. So we come down to collect our paper, which has been prepaid at the newsagent, and then we sit around and talk for a couple of hours over very strong fair trade coffee.
Oh, a fair trade. There's a good point to raise.
It is a good point to raise. We've got Anne here, and Anne, you've been very much sort of involved in the fair trade element. We've got a wonderful shop over here. It's gone very well, hasn't it?
Yes, it has gone very well. There's another lady who's really in charge, Pam Gorst, but I do help her, and we collect the fair trade from Margaret Newton, and we sell loads of coffee and loads of baking things. Wish we could sell a little bit more, but we have some now in the shop downstairs. And so, we're able to make more money than we did last year.
And you've raised a huge amount. I know there's a figure on the cupboard over there of thousands of pounds worth, which is all going to wonderful causes. It's obviously quite important to you, that.
Yeah, it is, because we firmly believe that, you know, people who grow crops and manufacture things should get a fair wage for a fair job. So that's what fair trade is all about.
And congratulations to Mark Newton and the others that actually set this up on the island, and us being a fair trade island, I think is very important.
It really is. I just want to speak to some of the other people who are here who we haven't had a big chat with yet. But Priscilla, who has been very busy in the kitchen with her rolling pin, just tell us about your connection here.
Well, my role mainly is Soup Stop, which we started about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. And it's every month, once a month, except for July and August. It's the third Wednesday in the month, and we have 3 or 4 different kinds of soups, lovely bread, followed by the inevitable... Sorry,
Cheryl's just bringing out a toilet roll.
Cheryl's bringing out a toilet roll simply because I happen also to be toilet roll monitor.
It's a very important job, you know.
Actually. Anyway, going back to Soup Stop. Yes, well, once a month, and obviously the soup is followed by the inevitable cakes, coffees, teas, and lots and lots of baking always.
And really important for you to be a part of this community hub.
Oh yes, definitely. It's a great community, and it is great fun. Yeah.
And we mentioned the films as well. I've got Rosie with us. I believe you're involved in the film side of things. What sort of films do you screen?
Well, it's a collection of all sorts, really. Some are as near as modern as possible, but it's great. People come from all around the island actually to support us, and they come and enjoy film together, and often discussions afterwards. It's really great.
Much going on here, you know, such a mix of stuff as well.
Well, if we just take a walk to the notice board here, I think that really does just give us an idea of how busy this place is. We mentioned the TTTs. They do start on Saturday, June the 2nd, 10:30 until 4:30. We mentioned meditation, which is something that Cheryl's really involved with. That happens on the 2nd and 4th Thursday in the month from 7:30 until 9 p.m. What a space to do that sort of thing. The Dalby whisk drive, which we have already mentioned, and it could
Beryl's
get a
very
little
good
bit
with the whisk drive, you know.
Yes. And they've got the soup stop, if I can say it properly. Just so much. But if you do want to find out more, you can sign up to the newsletter that Cheryl was talking about. We'll put the details on the blog. And we haven't even been downstairs yet, Christy.
I know, we're going to be having a look downstairs, and so there'll be some video, and also we'll put some audio on the podcast as well. We do have something a bit special, though, that we want to play out before the end of the show. And James Franklin, we have a song that we're going to play out. It's a version by Mira Royal that we're going to hear, a tune that she's playing. But just tell us a little bit about this piece of music.
This piece of music is called Aran Gelby, which is a Dalby song, and it was connected from a mysterious man who we never met, but he just rode into Dalby Shore and sang this song, but we never heard the words, so all we have is just the tune.
And it's been collected, and obviously various people have done it. Ruth Kegan, I think, does a version of it as well. But tell us about this book you've got here.
This is a copy of Mannin Journal, which was put together by the great Sophia Morrison back in the 1910s. This is from 1913, and this was the first place it was published, this Aran Gelby.
Wow, fantastic. You see, you always go to James for wonderful little nuggets of culture and importance there. So thanks very much to James Franklin for that one.
And Sophia Morrison's birthday on the 24th, I think, is it, James? Yeah, so that's coming up as well. So, I love all these connections here. But so much more to talk about. Do head to the Manx Radio website and the Facebook page where details of the extra podcast, where we go and take a look downstairs at the newly refurbished hub. I just want to say thank you so much to everybody here at Dalby who's been so welcoming. If you are passing and it's open, do make the effort to come in, because some tea will be greeting
Follow your nose, because you can smell the soda cake. It smells fantastic and tastes even better.
It really does.
It's wonderful.
And also thank you to Alex for producing this programme back at Broadcasting House. Matty Cunningham, our engineer, who's been standing there chained to all the bits and pieces. And
Margie Killier for organising this wonderful group of people for us today.
And Ben Hartley for producing the social media. But Cheryl, let's come back to you to close this part of the programme. I mean, we can't really encapsulate in just a minute or so just how special this place is, but you could give it a go, eh?
That's really difficult. I think it's an extended family for all of us. Does that sum it up?
I think it really does, but I think that's the general sense. I have to say, there's a lot of women here. Do you get men in the building?
Only if they remember to take their shoes off. We give them time off. No, the Sunday Papers balances that up, and we also have a hub pub downstairs once a month, and that's another meeting point. So yes.
And if people want to find out about all the events that are going on here, can they sign up to the newsletter?
We don't have a newsletter. We have a website, and so they can contact me if they want information about events. We have a group email, so they contact me and ask to be put on that email, cherylcousins@manx.net, and our website is stjamesdalby.org.
Wonderful, Cheryl. Thank you so much.
There is a sign outside letting people know when you're open as well. It's a lovely little sign, so do come on down. I think it's about time we had a bit of soda cake. Beth,
oh yeah, I haven't had any yet.
You haven't had any yet. I know. I have to admit. Oh look, the plate's cleared. I didn't even realise I was doing that. Sorry. But let's finish with that beautiful tune as played by Mira Royal, harpist for, of course, Young Folk Musician of the Year for the BBC. And we will be back with you on Monday. Let's have a resounding farewell from Dalby Hall. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.